You've probably heard from everyone and your grandmother and mainstream media and their grandmother that there's inflation going on. Things are getting more expensive. Now, oftentimes the media is focusing on things like groceries, but housing is also becoming more expensive. There are lots of products through the consumer space that are becoming more expensive: furniture, groceries, houses, all this other kind of stuff. So, part of the reason that inflation is bad is because it makes the amount of money that you take home worth less than it was beforehand, right? So if you take home $600 a week and you're used to buying $100 worth of groceries for you and your family, if that amount, if that amount of groceries, I've got something in my eye here. Apologies, guys. If that amount of groceries becomes $150, then you have that many fewer dollars left to do whatever else you need to do, right? So, and this can really add up. So in the hypothetical I just gave, now at the end of the month, instead of having, $2,000, you now have $1,800, and that adds up a lot, right? So, maybe that hurts your ability to pay rent, maybe it hurts your ability to pay other bills. So we're concerned about inflation for this reason, right? Your take-home pay becomes worth less than it was. So what do we do about that as workers, as people who have to work for a living? Well, so the new year just came. Many people who work ask for cost of living adjustments or small raises between years. It doesn't have to be between years. It can be on your work anniversary. It can be literally any time. But if you haven't done so yet, I highly encourage you to look at what your employer offers in terms of cost of living adjustments. They might call it something else. They might call it merit raises. They might just call it annual raises. Whatever it is, you want to get a sense as soon as possible about how much it is, if it's a flat amount, which is very bad, by the way, a flat amount, I mean, or if it is an amount of money relative to the amount of money that you are currently making. And if so, it's actually very important for you to know that too, because essentially what's going to be happening now is, even if your pay increases, you need to make sure that the increase in your pay is large enough that it is more than the amount of inflation. Because if you are, if you get a 6% raise and inflation is 6%, you actually didn't get a raise at all, right? Whereas if you get a 3% raise and inflation is 6%, you've actually lost money on your paycheck. So what you're looking to do now, if you've got the 6% inflation, and by the way, I keep using that number because that's more or less where things are on average. Obviously, it depends where in the country you are and where in the world you are, but 6% is a pretty good average, and I've seen that number repeated a bunch of different places. So I'm going to use 6% because I think it makes the most sense. So if if inflation is 6% and essentially the cost of goods and services rose 6% last year, well, then you need something that's greater than 6%. Now, maybe you're looking at like 7%, but you should probably look for like a 10% increase, right? Because that way you have covered inflation, but you also got a little bit of bump too. And by the way, annual raises aren't just a matter of, your salary or wage keep up with the amount of inflation. It's also an indication from your employer that the experience that you have accrued and the goodness at your job that you have accumulated over the course of the last year, or however long you were at the company, is worth something to them, right? And that they're willing to pay to keep you on. Now, unfortunately, not a lot of companies operate this way. And, big companies that pay as little as possible, Starbucks, Walmart, Amazon, what have you, oftentimes they are relying on you being a replaceable cog. You come in, you work for as long as you possibly can until you either burn out, give up, or die. And then they just replace you with someone else. And they don't value that experience because the job that they think that the job that they're asking you to do is not worth spending the time and effort on you, and the time, effort, and money on you to actually invest in you and your career growth and your ability to make the company more productive. And by the way, most workers have some level of pride in the work that they do, right? Not everyone loves their job, and that's fine, and it is what it is. You don't have to love your job to take pride in it, but it's something that you do, right? And that someone expects of you, even if that thing is something you don't enjoy. So oftentimes you put into it as much as you are willing to put into it, and oftentimes people feel some level of pride in that work. So a company investing in you is saying, "Hey, we appreciate that you take the time out of your life to do this for us, and because you have learned to do it, you make the company that much better." And then they're rewarding you for that experience. They're rewarding you because the company is doing better, what have you. Now, unfortunately, this isn't the case in a lot of places, and it's very difficult to secure raises. But if you have the ability to talk to your manager, to talk to the people who control raises and things like that, or to put pressure on management, then it's really important that you go ahead and do that, right? That you work with your other coworkers, or you can even do it anonymously. There's no requirement that you offer yourself up as a sacrifice, right? Because as soon as you start asking about raises, it's entirely likely that you are punished or fired. But if there's a town hall at your work, or if there's a meeting, a regular meeting, or a suggestion box or something, try putting pressure on your employer to make sure that not only are they increasing your wage or salary, but they're doing so in such a way that it actually tops over the amount that inflation is, again, around that 6% number. Because if they don't, they are essentially stealing from you. And this is especially true because a lot of the inflation that is being created right now is companies who are raising their prices artificially. They don't necessarily feel the pain of inflation, or, um, the quote unquote labor shortage, or the issues with supply chain. Oftentimes they're just seeing that, hey, there's a lot of talk about inflation. Why don't we make our prices go up because inflation, right? So in those cases, especially, you should be asking for more money because clearly they have the ability to pay you more money. But even if you're not in those situations, the company gains something by your experience. They gain something by your ability to do the job better, to not have to constantly retrain people all the time for the job. And I don't. That's regardless of where you work. I don't care if you work at Amazon or Starbucks or the banks or in the government or whatever. The longer you are at somewhere, the more experience you have, and oftentimes the better time to do the job. Politicians accepted, for the most part. So you should be rewarded for that experience, and as much as possible, please put pressure on your employers to prove that they value you. Now, unfortunately, an employer might show their hand that they actually don't value you, and it's hard to get a new position right now. So I don't envy you if you're in that position, but at least try, right? I think it's worth trying, because if not, essentially what's going to happen is it will become harder and harder for you to pay your bills, to do what you need to do. And last point here too, there is kind of a time sensitivity to this, and not just because I think inflation will get worse, or because inflation could get worse. But the reason there's some time sensitivity here is because if you have student loans like I do, the government has kindly reminded us that on May 1st, we have to start paying those back again. So that's just another bill that you're going to have in your life. So if you can secure a raise, better do it now. Better do it as soon as you can, because more bills are coming, unfortunately, and not much relief is coming from the government. So unfortunately, as workers, we're kind of on our own, but advocate for yourself as much as possible. I know it's hard. Find a way. Hopefully, you can do that. And for anyone who's looking to get more money out of their employer, I wish you the best of luck. Really, I do, because we need it. And by the way, you deserve it.
Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you liked it, throw a like on it, share with your friends, and subscribe for more of our content. You can also find all of our videos and clips on youtube.com. Just search Let Them Eat Bread and you'll find all of our content. Alright guys, see you next time. Bye for now.